Hello, good morning, everybody. So first of all, on behalf of Elisabetta, our CEO, and all the Sparkle people in Italy and abroad, we want to welcome all of you here and all the guys that are participating from remote. For us, it's a great honor to sponsor once again. It's the third time in a row, 2 in presence and 1 virtual, this great event. I believe that every year that passes, the event is getting more traction. We see the old faces, we see new faces. There is a lot of interest, and definitely there is a lot of market shaking around the wholesale. Telco Infrastructure Summit is very important for us. We were born as an infrastructure company. We are doing several things now, more than infrastructure, but that is our core business. And we couldn't avoid being here welcoming all of you. Few words about who I am. Daniele Mancuso, as Vida presented me, I am the Chief Product Management in Sparkle. I'm bothering the telco arena from about 30 years, and I hope to do it for quite still some time. So today, I will give you a very short introduction. I hope to be within the 10 minutes that I promised, but I'm usually taking something more. So be prepared. 2 words about Sparkle. Here we are. So we are the, I would say, first global service provider incorporated in Italy. Everybody knows we are part of Team Group. We are ranked number 5 for our IP international backbone in the world. Few difference compared to last year's. 1,800 customers, plus 300 vis-a-vis 2021. Some difference, as you see, in voice traffic and in data traffic. This already anticipated some trends. Voice is going down. It's not voice itself that is going down. It's the voice that is carried by our companies that is going down. We must be clear. People keep on talking each other, and they talk even more. Unfortunately, they choose other platforms, and therefore, what we carry is shrinking year over year. But data, instead, as you can see, is keep on growing. And we marked plus 20 terabits per second of aggregated bandwidth transported in our network. Turnaround that came back on top of the 1 billion euro. So something more vis-a-vis 2020. Our footprint keep on expanding. Last year, I told you that we are above 600,000 kilometers of fiber optics around the world between terrestrial and submarine networks. These numbers are increasing, as well as our point of presence. We are at 164. And for the first time, we are publishing the cloud interconnect footprint that is growing considerably. We have now reached a considerable number of 70 cloud connect enabled nodes in more than 50 cities worldwide. This means that Sparkle not only is able to carry your data from any point of the world to another, but to interconnect to any cloud wherever you need to be connected. Let's move and let's get back to the past. 1 year ago, as I told you, it's 30 years that I'm bothering you. So let's go to 1 year ago. We were on this stage, and I told you a little bit about what was the outlook of the bandwidth internationally. We are in a data-hungry age, as Eric was challenging us last year and keeps on challenging us this year. So last year, I told you that the demand is growing, and is growing very consistently year over year. We are very close to doubling the international bandwidth every 2 years, and this trend is continuing. Just to give you an example, I told you that the 2 petabits per second, that is the total international bandwidth available in infrastructures around the world, means to transport simultaneously 8K enabled video and delivering it to 20 million TV at the same time. So it's an enormous number and an enormous quantity of data. We also said that the major regions to benefit of this data increase were Asia and Africa. Africa actually the top winner because, of course, of the lack of the infrastructure, but also because of the lack of connected people to the internet. But as you can see, Europe and other regions that are considered consolidated market were also increasing a lot. Most of that bandwidth, most of those 2 terabit are used by the OTT and content provider. And the situation keeps ongoing in this direction. We will see next on. And basically, the OTT, the ones that we called over the top, that we are now starting to call under the bottom, are the major providers today of submarine cable, the major financer of submarine cables around the world. So let's get back to 2022 and see what is the situation. We thank, of course, our friends of telegeography that punctually are delivering excellent market researches on this topic. So last year we had 2 petabits. This year we are very close to 3 petabits per second. So the bandwidth is still increasing. There is something, although, that you probably will see in the compound annual growth rate. For the first time, this in 5 years went down to 40%. And the trend seems to be announcing that next year we will not have a total doubling. So should we be worried about what is going on? I would say no. And let's analyze a little bit more data. So if you look at 2020, the internet outlook had an unbelievable increase. We had 35% bandwidth increase compared to the previous year. And this was going down in 2021. But I would say that this is not structural. In 2020, we had the COVID striking. So that increase in internet represent, according to the major analysts, a spike that it's slowly converging back towards the 5-year trends. So as you can see in 2021, we don't have an enormous growth like the year before, but we still having a linear trend compared to 2019. And if you go to see 2018, is the same story. The growth is confirmed also from a regional perspective. This is international internet bandwidth growth by region. And you can see that Africa and Asia are still the ones putting the more horsepower. So it means that there is probably a trend under confirmation there. And this is confirmed also by our friend of Data Portal. Look at Africa and Southeast Asia. Those numbers represent the number of people who are not yet connected to the internet. This is, of course, in millions. So the data of the internet growth correspond to the number of people that are still not connected to the internet. It means that infrastructures are being focused there, and that probably some levels of industrial revolution and data transformation is happening in that regions. Let's go to the subsea cables. If you see on the right, for the next 2 years, so 2022 and 2023, there is a forecast of announced cables that should go into production, and the cost, the total spending for submarine cables is reaching the $3 billion in that 2023 year. So everything is basically keeping on saying us that there is demand and there are investments that are being put into activation to bring bandwidth, to bring more bandwidth. Then tomorrow we will see with Enrico whether those cables will be really delivered, but this is another story. Another thing that keep on comforting us about the demand is the outlook of the next decade. You know that whenever we pass a 0 year, We recently plus the 2020, so we are already forecasting what will be 2030. What will be the macro trends in this new decade that we are going to have? There are few examples here. There is a lot more, but just to keep an example. Physical to digital, you know it already. Everything is getting connected. So physical to digital is that trend that says that every device that will be commercialized will not have a step of digitalization, but will be designed and built already connected. We will see if there are chipsets enough, but that trend is confirmed for 2030. In 2030, everything technological that we will buy will be connected to a network, either the private or the public. Human augmentation, there is a lot of, news going on about devices that will support people in delivering new kind of task, both from physical point of view. I don't know if you have seen endoskeleton or something like that, but all these devices and technologies will see their big advent in the market in the 2030 decades. Digital enterprise, there is no anymore a single company that is not embracing the cloud. And the digital enterprise will not simply be a company that is using systems spread between their internal data center and one of the clouds, but will be an enterprise that is using pieces of application that will be distributed. We will not know where those applications run, and it doesn't matter for us. The only thing that matters is that those applications work and keep the enterprise up and running. Autonomous vehicles, nothing to say. I mean, we are seeing that the big advance in this market. Hyper automation of industries, it's the complement of the digital enterprise. Industries will probably be completely automated, not just in the production, but also in the supply chain, in the shipment, in the transportation of the goods. We keep on saying about those buzzwords, smart factories, smart logistics. All this is becoming reality. And last but not least, the metaverse, the concept of the new immersive internet, the concept where the internet will not be seen on a bidimensional screen, but the internet will be lived from inside. All those macro trends are having something in common, which is basically data production. Everything there is producing an enormous amount of data. Just see the autonomous vehicles. You know, the Tesla cars are having at least 8 cameras, each of them. Each of that camera produces an aggregated amount of 10 gigabytes of data, I think, per hour. So imagine the need, the computational need, and therefore imagine the need for connectivity, either it wireless, metro, regional, edge, international. This data will have to reside somewhere, and this data will have to be transported. So wherever we have data production, we have manufacturing of international bandwidth. And not only this, let me be even more provocative, connectivity is going to be the prerequisite to achieve the digital targets for the next decade. And again, it doesn't matter where this data will be produced and stored, they will have to be transported somehow. So we can say that our industry blossomed. But of course, there is, for every coin, there is always the other side. So let's try to flip. First of all, we have consolidated what we started to tell last year. There is demand, and the demand keeps on growing. I thought about the challenges, and I think we can basically compress all the challenges that we have in those 3 words: sustainability, experience, and trust. Now, let's see what is sustainability. I mean, we are speaking about doubling the bandwidth year over year, but how can we keep on surviving between price erosion and cost reduction? And this cost really reducing, I mean, think To double the capacity that we provide from a point of presence year over year means probably to double the density of the equipment. And I see some of the colleagues here that will give keynote later on that are probably interested about this. We see some other colleagues that are sending us email telling that the cost of energy is increasing and they have to apply it on top of the cost of space. So we will pay more colocation space because we need more equipment. We will pay more energy. We will have to pay more energy to keep those things cold enough, because you know that the more density we apply, of course, the more is the heat generation. But do we have enough chipset, and do we have in the world enough raw metals to produce the chipset that are needed? It's the geopolitical friction, not to call it war, that we have today going to put us more under pressure. What about the overbooked factories? Again, Enrico tomorrow will give us an interesting point of view regarding the submarine cables. We see that the spending is augmenting, but are we sure that the guys are able to deliver? We are going to see. We need to monetize these investments. So we know that prices by definition are going down, but we see that cost might go up. How can we monetize? How can we survive? How are the rules of competitions there? And of course, there is no plan B, but there is no plan B, there is no planet B. All this means increase the pollution, increase the generation of serra effects. So we need to also be responsible about the environment and about the planet that we are going to leave to our children. Let's talk about experience. On top of whatever we said, unfortunately today, even the wholesale industry is affected by a phenomenon called consumerization. Everybody expects to see the same experience that we have when we have our smartphone in hands, meaning connectivity, availability of data and information on the spot, applications that are being used wherever we are and giving a result. And therefore, this challenge in the consumer world is being transferred to the enterprise world, that in turn is transferring to the wholesale. So we have this effect that is really putting us under pressure. There is the need of diversification. Why? Because the more we invest in new infrastructure, the more we put bandwidth in our same points of presence, at the same time we are building single points of failures. And when a submarine cable is cut, we have terabit, petabit of data that are falling. We are sometimes isolating entire countries. We need to be extremely conscious there, not to be blind and decide to go to open a point of presence in that specific place because everybody is there. We need also to be brave to say, okay, everybody is there, too much stuff is there, let's start to put a small piece of stack somewhere else. And of course, there is the topic of the lock-in. In the past, we used to say, well, we sold 1 terabit of data to that customer. They will never change us. We lock them for life. Today, there is enough proliferation of investments in infrastructure that the vendor lock-in does not exist anymore. There is no loyalty. If you create a problem, and the problem can be a quality problem, an experience problem, a delay, or if you keep your prices not aligned to the decline, the customer will go and will go to somewhere else. There are alternatives. We need to understand the concept of liquid capacity. We cannot keep on surviving to buy pieces of metal and delivering pieces of metal. We need to think out of the box. We need to have the metal before and to activate software license wherever and whenever they are needed. And of course, there are delivery time expectations. There is the concept of automation that is moving from the technological framework also to the business framework. Last but not least, there is the issue of trust. In this hyper-digitalized world that we are gonna moving into, there is the need to know who is your counterpart. when you are talking about business automation, when you're talking about having APIs that are not just north-south, but east-west, allowing commercial transaction, you need to be sure about the identity of your counterpart. It's not enough that I present myself like Sparkle. There are a lot of ways to counterfact my digital identity. And the concept of digital identity goes to the digital twin, because it's not just to understand and to be sure of the identity of a company, of a business, but also about the identity of a sensor, of an actuator, of a piece of intelligent network that is thousands of kilometers far from our headquarters, and we don't have means to really understand that that ping is coming from our equipment. When we talk about business automation, customers expect immediate reactions. We cannot say, okay, we have APIs, but we will keep on delivering you in 90 days or 200 days. And then we will have, of course, still disputes on invoices that are going back and forth for months or years. So the concept of finding the right technology and the right way to digitalize billing and settlement will become critical. We already talked about asset tokenization. Every telco asset should have a unique identifier that is recognized within the telco domain, but can be recognized within the customer domain. Therefore, we need our IT systems to talk each other. It's not trivial. And of course, the security posture. We are always more exposed to cyber attacks, and we need to find the right technologies and the right partners that can help us surviving there. What we are doing? Well, concerning sustainability, experience, diversification, new infrastructures, those are our flagship projects. You see here pictures about our lending infrastructure in Genoa, because Genoa is part of the diversification. We are building Genoa together with our partners and together with our other players that are believing and investing on the same concept, because we think that Marseille cannot really host any more cables, not in terms of capacity, but simply in terms of too many eggs in one basket only. So, number one, Italy is a valid alternative. Number two, Genova is the perfect alternative. The ecosystem that we are building between Genova and Milano is the perfect diversification stuff. And on top of that, you see the Blue Raman, another great example of diversification in terms of route, in terms of countries that are transported. You see new hubs, because whenever you build a new cable, you need to be ready an infrastructure to support a new ecosystem of players that will be interconnected. You see Nibble. Nibble is the first pan-European network that was designed with the concept of liquid capacity inside. And it's probably the first network where all the points are able to deliver liquid capacity whenever we want. And on top of that, there are other things that we are working in the Caribbean. We cannot describe, but stay tuned and you will see. In terms of, it's stuck. Stuck. Here we go. One more. In terms of experience and trust, also there Sparkle is very active. You see here, a great project that Enrico is delivering is the complete transformation of our IT systems to embrace the concept of one company, to embrace the concept of digital telco. And that is something that allowed us even to receive an award on last June by Carrier Community. We are present in several organizations, MEF, CBAN. MEF is let's say, our lighthouse for what concerns business automation. We were one of the first 3 service providers in the world that was certified for business APIs with Sonata, of course, Sonata payload. We are present in CBAN, that is taking care about building automated billing and settlement via blockchain. We are one of the founders of an initiative called Integrated Trust Network, which is an association of telco players, mobility players, and insurance players. We are building together a blockchain network to provide business with digital identities and digital twin. We are already 15 companies operating one node per company, and the associated turnaround of those companies is already more than $500 billion per year. Last but not least, there is something about the metaverse. We are also preparing to enter into an association there. Stay tuned. Within the end of the year, you will know also news about it. I took more, as usual, but I thank you very much for listening, and I leave the floor, I think, to Stefano for his part. Thank you very much.
Grazie, Daniele, and welcome everybody from my side. So I hope you're going to enjoy this morning, and I hope you went through the summer on a very nice way and you enjoyed it, and so on. So yeah, data. Whoop, no, away from the speaker. Sorry. The wholesale industry in a data-hungry age, actually, and it's not only about digitalization and transformation. Sorry for that. It's even more. And Daniela, thank you so much for enlightening us and giving us already a little bit of a glimpse of what Sparkle is doing, what is heading towards us, and what's moving. So we're going to continue with Stefano from Juniper. He will talk us through what the strategic partnership is all about, what they're doing, and how they can support us and help us, actually. So and then after that, we're going to invite a couple of people actually to the seats to discuss actually the matter more in depth. So Stefano, welcome. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Okay, so let's start from the basics. Juniper, who is Juniper? So in the 90s, Juniper recognized that the routers that had been built until this moment, programming microprocessor, Juniper recognized that the routers needed to be split into parts. In fact, the founder, Pradeep Sindhu, together with a small team of engineers, and including the today's CEO of Juniper, Rami Rahim, they designed a core routers completely different way. So they designed core router to actually split into parts, the control plane and the data plane. And it was a big innovation for that time. And it was delivered, the M40, the first core router in 1998, and it was a big success. It was something like 20x performance compared with the competition. And quickly moving forward, today, Juniper builds routers from the core to the edge, from the enterprise to the LAN, switches, firewall, and AI-driven networking systems. And so, in summary, Juniper builds machinery and software that make the fancy stuff run. So Juniper and Sparkle. So I remember very well, more than 10 years ago, when we installed the first core router in LATAM, and was the first. And then we moved and we installed the MX on the edge. And then during the last years, we installed the PTX. So let's zoom a little bit more on what we are doing now. So we have installed more than 30 PTX routers that are 400 gig enabled, and more than 450 Juniper routers deployed, and more than 3,000 100 gig interfaces. So I'm really happy to say that really has been really an exceptional work done. And today this network is connecting individuals and machines around the world. But I would like to say that, you know, as said by Daniele, Sparkle needs not only bandwidth, but needs also flexibility. In fact, we implemented together with Sparkle a completely different model based on pay-as-you-grow. So now Sparkle is able to activate ports and bandwidth in days. So they have the hardware deployed, And with software licenses, with a pay-as-you-go model on PTX, they can activate ports and bandwidth for customers in days. That has been really important for them. But let me digress for a second. So it's really simple, and when you see, on paper the projects or in a PowerPoint, everything is perfect. But in reality, when you are going to deploy devices, is a different story. When you turn on multiple features, it's completely different. It's where you are starting to have issues. So is that the reason I'm really proud of what we did together with Sparkle, because today we have deployed a network that is really complex, but it's scalable and reliable around the world. So really proud of what we did together with them. But what we are doing as a Juniper, as said, the customers like Sparkle that are managing a very complex infrastructure, they need, as said, bandwidth at a good cost. That is the first thing. The second thing is also flexibility. They need really to stay flexible towards the customers. They need reliability, but they need also power efficiency. Power efficiency is something that is very important at this stage. And the last one is automation. So let me say something about what we are doing in terms of investment in Juniper. So in Juniper, we say that you shouldn't compromise on silicon. So the Express 5, that is the last silicon that's been announced months ago, it's the 5th generation of silicon. So it's the highest throughput silicon in the industry. It's 800 gig capable and is very power efficient. Think about that. The Express 5 delivers 45% less power efficiency than the Express 4. And the Express 4 was 40% more power efficient than the previous one. So it's you see the curve, and what we are doing a lot to invest and to produce new chipsets that are even more power efficient. And I would like also to say something about the features. So the customers needs and the partners needs silicon that it's able to guarantee bandwidth and throughput. But you give the chipset and the throughput, then they enable sampling, they enable filtering, they enable a lot of services. So, and I love the expression that we use in Juniper, that our silicon is built for the unknown, because at the end, the customers, must be flexible, the partners must be flexible, and they must be ready to turn on features that they don't know at the beginning. So it's very important, this approach that we have in Juniper. Last point I would like to touch is automation. So I think that the industry, this industry started, the journey with the manual configuration of CLI-based devices. Now we are in a stage in the middle at the end. So the service providers are implementing a semi-automated model for device configuration, for an automated model for service activation. So it's time really to say goodbye to command line. I think that really we need to move on. We really need to move to a assured service model based on automation, on closed loop. And the reason is because we need to be very flexible. So this industry and the telcos needs to be quick and really proactive in front of the customers. We need to shift from being reactive to proactive. And automation, is a necessity today. And I think that if you are continue to stay with a model that is semi-automated, you are losing a big opportunity. And for example, the failure, it's even more risk with a manual activation. And it takes days and weeks to activate new services. So Juniper Paragon Automation addresses all these challenges. And Paragon Automation is a portfolio of cloud native applications that deliver closed loop automation. And it helps also the operation teams, because the operation teams can work and better. They can use at the beginning this automation tool. They can understand more, and they can even interact with the system. So I think that being fully automated, it's really a must. And let me also say something about Juniper automation and what we did with MEF last year. So Juniper Paragon automation solution was recognized last year by MEF for helping service providers to deliver automation in their network. And we ran 2 POC, and the first POC, the multi-edge cloud POC solution, demonstrated how it's possible to accelerate the adoption of multi-edge cloud services through the orchestration of applications, of IoT application. And also the second POC was a success. So the live events, the POC solution was really demonstrated that it's really powerful to use the network slicing on their network. So for telco, it's a great tool, network slicing. And so to sum up, I can tell you that our commitment as a Juniper to all of you, to all the customers, to all these partners, is to deliver reliable, scalable, but also fully automated networks. And is that why our True North is experience first networking. So thanks a lot. If you have a question, I will be very glad to answer you. Thanks a lot.
So we kicked off already. First day, wholesale industry with all the challenges, what we see. So again, Daniele and Stefano, thank you so much for your presentation. I would like to invite actually some panelists which are virtually here. So Surab and Artur, are you here? Can we see if they're here?
Yes, I'm very much here.
Hi Surab. Yes. Hi Artur, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Did you find it interesting what Stefano and Daniele had to tell us?
Very much. Very. I liked it a lot. So thank you for great presentations.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll give immediately the both of you the opportunity to quickly introduce yourself to the audience so they know who you are, what you do, and if you have a scoop, for instance, Artur, you're more than welcome to tell us, right? So Artur, over to you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Well, unfortunately, I'm joining remotely again, so something I'm doing wrong for those beautiful Rome meetings you guys have, but maybe next time. My name is Artur Ostrovsky. I'm a Chief Commercial Officer at Enexo. Enexo is a Salesforce system integrator. So we are focusing on helping people building more efficient BSS, business support systems. Our focus is on telecom. 75% of our revenue comes from telecom sector. Most of this comes from wholesale carriers. And our differentiator is really the knowledge of telco. We are part of the TM Forum. We are part of MEF. And we help people automating, quoting, delivery, increasing speed, efficiency, customer experience.
Thank you so much, Artur. Let's go over to Surab. Surab, please take a minute.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Saurabh Verma. I am the Senior Director for the ICT Advisory Practice at Frost & Sullivan. Frost & Sullivan, as many of you might already know, that it's primarily an advisory firm. We do a lot of work in the telecom space. I personally have worked with quite a lot of clients in the space of submarine cables, doing feasibility assessment and financial plans, business models for quite a lot of clients. In addition to that, we continue to work with quite a lot of telecom operators globally as well as in the region. So I'm based in the Middle East. I'm based in Dubai, so it's beautiful, 45 degrees here today. So that's a very brief introduction of myself as well as Frost & Sullivan.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the floor here. So Stefano, we know already, Daniele for sure. So let's make it really exciting now. So for the people who do not know him yet, but Fabrizio, please, floor is yours. Please tell us what's Horizon doing, who are you, and what do you have to share with us?
So welcome everybody. My name is Fabrizio. I'm the CEO of Horizon. We do messaging platforms. So we enable mobile operators, voice carriers with messaging infrastructure so they can enter into this massive scaling messaging business, which will follow us in communication for this next and following decades.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Bertrand.
Buongiorno, everybody. So Bertrand Lacour, I work for Blue Planet Software, which is a software division of Siena, the optical manufacturer. I'm a senior consultant within Blue Planet, based out of London. So Blue Planet does network automation, as well as inventory solutions and assurance, network assurance, closed loop assurance, etc.
Okay, thank you very much, and gentlemen, all very, very welcome to here to the telco infrastructure, which is sponsored by Sparkle. So thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's move on. Let's get into it. Talking about the wholesale industry in the data-hungry age, actually with more density, we quickly listen to you with the price explosion of energy, that we need to do something about it, that we need to be more sustainable, and to actually by the end of the day improve all and our children's, let's say, customer experience, because at the end of the day it's all what it's all about. Now, Arthur, if I may start with you, I mean, from your point of view, what scoping a bit the landscape, what do you see around you? What are the challenges in a nutshell, and also the opportunities you see around you from your angle?
Right. Thank you. And I mentioned I like the starting presentations a lot because there are a lot of insights in what is happening really. And one thing which is very, very evident is that the industry is challenging, and the traffic will continue growing, but not without the price. And the price is connected with the challenges that Daniela was talking about: sustainability, experience, trust. So there is a lot on the plate of the carriers or telcos that needs to be addressed in the coming years to address a couple of things, including the necessity of becoming more efficient. So the digital transformation, when I think about it, it's there are a couple of major elements that we can achieve through digital transformation. One is really the efficiency of operations, doing things cheaper, but also doing things faster. So a lot of what Daniela was talking about in the sustainability challenge will be delivered hopefully through digital transformation and network operators, network service providers being more efficient and able to deliver more traffic at a quicker pace, interconnecting networks with each other and expanding the network automation, not only within their own existing network, but also between the different networks. So that's one of the things that is happening. But the other thing that I think fundamentally is happening, and I like that part a lot, about the customerization of the wholesale industry. It's very, very clear that the trends that started in the residential markets are coming to B2B markets and effectively also to the wholesale market. So a lot of the trends that I'm seeing are actually connected with, okay, how do we enable ourselves to get into this new environment with new business models and adopting new technologies to address these expectations that are happening with zero touch APIs with improved customer experience.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's your point of view, Arthur. You know, I'm gonna be a bit firmy here now, but I'll come back to you. Saurabh, I mean, having the people around the table here who are all, let's say, delivering services in one way or the other. and solutions and platforms. Now you have the helicopter view. What do you see around you? What do you see happening? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so I can probably talk a little bit more about the region that I look after, that I manage. I think, you know, a couple of points that Arthur mentioned about. One is about the sustainability piece. I think I'm seeing a lot of change in the way the operators, as well as, you know, the wholesale providers as well, in terms of the way they have been operating, okay, and delivering services as well. So if I talk specifically about the sustainability part, you know, I see a massive change in terms of their strategies, their roadmap, what they are doing, you know, how effectively and more efficiently they're trying to deliver their services from a sustainability perspective as well. And I also think that this particular aspect is also, there are two ways to it, you know. Sustainability definitely is one of the things that is driving them to be more efficient, more effective, and, you know, deliver services at a much cheaper price as well. But at the same time, it's the competition as well as the market dynamics as well that are pushing them in that direction too. You know, especially in this region now, there is an upcoming trend, sustainability, wherein sustainability reporting is becoming quite prominent. Okay, and quite a lot of operators are also moving in that direction. So I think as we continue on that path, you know, sustainability is something that will not be only in the business that we are talking about, but it will be spread across multiple industries as well. And again, at the same time, if you look at the way the price trends that have been there in the industry in the last, you know, I would say over a decade or so, maybe more, you know, the average price continues to goes down over a period of time, and it continues to goes down, and it's likely to go down in the near future as well. So again, I think that part also is very, very, very important to look at from a I would say from a delivery perspective, in terms of how telecom operators are delivering these services, and again from a competition perspective as well. So I think there are 2 or 3 different forces that are driving this transformation or this change that the operators are currently going through. And also the second point that you know, that I would also like to take a clue from what Art mentioned about the chain. You know, you talk about the changes and the transformation in terms of delivering better services, delivering superior customer experience to the consumers itself, okay? And then you sort of start moving up, okay? You start trying to deliver the same to your channel partners, to your distributors, and then, you know, the same comes to the wholesalers as well. So I think that is another trend which I'm continuously seeing in this region as well. And I'm sure it is basically a mirror image of what's happening in the global markets as well. Okay, thank you. Bertrand, from your angle, what do you see? What do you see around you?
So from our position within the industry, we see a lot of activity around automation of the network. So to be able to deliver and provision services more rapidly. It's not that there's shortage of demand, you know, for data. It's how do you make your network, what you have already invested in, more agile, to be able to deliver, you know, services faster, and how do you make or try to make more money in a way to add value, and adding value when you're a wholesale provider is, for example, by delivering services more rapidly, having a customer interface which is fully automated. So you have from you know, service ordering to delivery fully automated. So we see a lot of conversations happening with service providers around how do you stitch the pieces that you've got already in the network to make it more agile and to make it more fluid. It also helps to have, you know, when you want to launch new services and try to innovate, you're quite often stuck with, okay, but you know, there's an issue or bottleneck here or there, and you know, our role in the industry is to help service providers try to abstract or create a level of abstraction.
You better.
Yeah. so the network doesn't become the bottleneck, but it's actually the infrastructure which you can rely on, and you do it with a software component that sits on top.
Okay, thank you. Now, we invited Fabrizio here as well, and which is not so much, let's say, typically data, but Fabrizio, I know you have a complete overview of the market, and I would like to you to share your take on, let's say, what do you see around yourself in the industry? What is happening, and where can you contribute? Where can you support?
Okay, thank you. So for me, it was extremely interesting to see your presentation today. And it shows again that, I mean, the world is not the same like, let's say, 3 years ago. And also the data industry is affected very much about things where you simply don't have under control. So let's say energy costs. Right now it hurts, but what about next year? So we have no idea. So might be now this is a peak, it's raising our full attention. But I don't know if it's in 1, 2, or 3 years still a problem. The same thing with the chip costs. So I see what happened in the last 2, 3 years showed us that we are short in things. What 3 years ago was completely normal. All of a sudden now you don't get this, you don't get that. But it gives me very big hope because there are things which only politics can solve. So let's say the energy cost, it's not our problem. It's the energy, the politics have to solve that. And what gives me very big hope is what is right now happening in the chip industry. So the President Biden, for instance, invested huge amount of money. He flooded, you know, so that he gets back the chip production back to the US. The same thing is happening in Europe as well. Here also we flood really money for the chip industry. And this gives me hope, you know, that the prices will go down very much sooner or later, as soon as all those factories goes up. And I think we have not to see it in this term, but might be we should flatten the curve and have a look that we have a very nice future. But let's say in 2, 3 years, when we get chips, when there is a lot of money going in there, I think also a lot of innovation will go there. The challenges, what you described today, can also be solved. So also thanks by politics.
So that's the upside. That's where the opportunities lie.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, Stefano, let's get a bit more into tech, because sure. That's what I like. So you mentioned that the new technologies that they pushes you, but as a company, of course, but they pushes us as well to have, let's say, quite a huge impact on our service portfolios. So a combined question: how and in what way? I mean, you mentioned already, tipped already something in your presentation, but also what might be the constraints and the challenges limited by the current technologies? So mouthful, and it's all yours.
Thanks for the question, Eric. I think that we have a lot of tools, a lot of technologies. So for sure we'll have constraints. But reality is, I think that technology is only a part. Because think about the automation, for example. I think that this industry needs to automate everything is possible to automate. Because automation, if you have a fully automated organization network, you can do a lot of things. So you will have constraints, but the most part of the constraints are, on the people and on the change. Because you have to get really an open organization that are able to launch new services. If you have a technology and a network and everything fully automated, you can start to launch a new service. If the service doesn't work, you can stop it. You can do like other industries. The other industries are going very, very well. I don't really understand why this industry is suffering. So I think we need to do a change, something. So let's have the network and the organization fully automated. The people, I think that, the people try to resist to change. It's human, it's human being. I think that we need to be open to the change, try to have an infrastructure that is fully automated, and try to launch new services, stop it if it doesn't work, and get money. And the last part, I think that we need really to understand the customer needs. So the last, we are talking about digitalization, we're talking about, technology, but if you don't understand the customer needs, you are done. So the last part is try to have, salespeople, not because I'm sales, but
no.
salespeople, but also, I think that, the best sales are, the engineers. because, you know, all the organizations must be marketing based, sales based. They need to understand.
Sorry to all salespeople, you can go home now. You can leave the floor now.
No, but I think that understanding the customer needs is even more important for this industry, because if you have a fully automated, you know, organization and network, you have to start new services. But if you don't understand what the customer needs, you are done.
Okay. So, Arthur, for you, is he right? Or I mean.
No, I agree, but I think the role of the salesperson is changing, because too much in the past, or let's face it, still in many places, the salesperson is like the way to manage our deficits in processes or in the systems. So it's just a person who is pushing the process manually. Whereas I do agree that this is not the biggest value of the salesperson. The biggest value of the salesperson is really understanding the customer. But in order to achieve that, a couple of things needs to happen. So one, we need to release people from this manual work, providing them with the more automation through the systems that we provide to them. But the other thing, which is also extremely important, is we need to equip them with the data, reliable data about the customer, really understanding your customer, understanding the customer from different perspectives, from the commercial perspective, from the operational perspective, from the network perspective, and making this data available to different stakeholders in your organization. So this is what is required in order to really improve the customer experience and making sure that the salespeople can really do their job. So this is not easy today, because the current technologies, I too often see too many detached systems, detached processes with this manual integration between the processes, scattered or even broken data in different systems, and too much proprietary still data models and APIs between the systems, which do not make it easy for us to put the consolidated solution that prevents the scalability, that prevents the flexibility of running the operations. Yeah, so these are the couple of challenges or constraints, Eric, that I would mention.
Okay, thank you. So Daniela, to you. Stefano was mentioning, you need to understand your customer. Duh, yes, of course. But from your side, on the product and services side, how can technology and as well, maybe you can say something about the partnership with Juniper. How can they support you and help you in providing the right products and services? And what do you need maybe more from them?
All right, so first of all, you must have a vision. The vision comes from understanding the technological enablers that are today in the market and those that are yet to come. And to understand your customer needs by listening to the customer, because sometimes the customer doesn't know what he needs. So, and this is in great contradiction to what we just finished to say, that is, everything must be automated. So the customer needs to push a button, order, implement, deliver, bill.
And pay.
Eventually. Eventually.
Magari,
exactly. So how can we have those two things work? First of all, we need to be careful when we reshuffle our product catalog. I would say that less is much better. Sometimes in telco product catalogs, you find hundreds of things, each of them with a small difference, which is not clearly understandable. So, number one, try to rely to standards. if I know that a large US player wants to buy from Sparkle termination in Italy and in Greece, I need to understand very clearly what is the type of product that I have to deliver. And this needs to come by the understanding of the product that they have to provide to their final customer. Transformation is also this, is to understand what are the needs of the end customer, because everything comes from that consumerization process that is ongoing. So it might be that this US large carrier was buying from us until yesterday layer 2 Ethernet services, but today they want to buy via API because their customers are financial institutions that needs the service up and running within a certain period of time. It might be that they need within a certain latency burdens, because 1 millisecond difference in the financial space is more than $1 million, more or less $1 million. So you understand that if I deliver something taking a wrong route, I am compromising. Oops, I didn't know. Okay. No, not at all.
Stefano, of course they will look at you.
So I keep on speaking like this. At the same time, when somebody is coming and is saying, hey, I need to buy 100 gig wavelengths from Singapore to Europe, all right, it's a wavelength, but I need it encrypted. So my standard transport platform is not capable of. So what do? Do you build different products, or you build one product with different options? So the second part of the vision, we said the first part is understand the technological enablers. The second part is let the customer talk in order to understand what really their customer wants. The third part is to really have a clear view of what you have to deliver and what you have to ask to your provider. At the end of the day, the service provider is the man in the middle between the customer and the vendor that is enabling him to achieve the targets. So building of products today is something extremely complex. And last but not least, since you talked about payment, we cannot think to have services in catalog that you order via API, but then they are generating an unbelievable amount of manual task to bill and to settle. So automation is everything that Stefano and Arthur described, and Bertrand, provisioning, being able to deliver from the feasibility onward. But automation is also processes and business. How do you trust an invoice that is coming from one party in a bilateral relationship? You need to create something in the middle that is absolutely above the transactional parties there, about the transaction, that needs to certify. How do you do it without creating a clearinghouse? How do you do without affecting that thing in the middle will be affected maliciously by one of the two bilaterals? That's the next stage, business automation. Using, once again, the technological enablers to get to that point. Taking things that are not used into the telco space and modeling, such as blockchains, for example, and modeling for the use of the business automation.
Okay, thank you. Fabrizio, you quickly want to say something or comment on it? Because yes, you're all about platforms. So.
Yes, I mean, I would like to challenge exactly what you guys said. So to entertain a little, you said you have to listen to the customer. Then you said you have to automate everything. And then also to settle that maybe in a blockchain, which is highly, power consumption, let's say sensitive, because you need several computers or thousands or 100,000 will save the same information. So now if you do too much smart software because you automate everything. But on the other hand, you said you have to listen to the customer. He wants this special deal, this, that. I mean, how does this work? Who builds the system where you just say customer just tells it into the microphone and the machine will just do it whatever you want? Is this not an amazing, I mean, it's from a vision point, yes. Yeah, it's paradox, but how realistic is it that your industry will achieve that? You know, so all the wishes, listening very carefully, and then fully automate the whole process. Is this realistic? Can such a smart software be built, or is this just a nice wish? And the fact is that you will have manual job in the future.
Now they're gonna fight. Come on,
No, we're not gonna fight. I think that at the end of the day, you need always to decide what is the right balance for your own company, for your own reality. I think that the issue of understanding the customer need is moving from the sales point to the product division. You need to understand very carefully what you need to put in your product catalog, and then you need to sell that thing in an automated fashion. If we think that in the era of the metaverse, we can still survive trying to understand for any connectivity deals, what is exactly that the customer wants and what is exactly what we can deliver and what is exactly what we need to ask Stefano, I don't think that we will have a bright future. So the right compromise is to understand what is your right position in this big chain. Again, when we speak about metaverse, when we talk about everything that is coming, there is no one player that is able to deliver the end-to-end. So everybody will have to choose what is the piece that I can do and how do I interact with my partners. So in the interaction with my partners, everything that we said, business automation, technical automation, strict software catalog, needs to be very much working like a Swiss watch. And this is coming much before the sales deal is even conceived between the two parties. We need to give sales colleagues the exact tools in order to exchange deals, to close a master service agreement that then can flow via API and via blockchain and via whatever. That's my view.
Okay, well, the funny part is you said like a Swiss watch, he's a Swiss company, so that makes sense. So Surab,
everything is prearranged.
Surab, quickly to you. What's your view? What do you see? I mean, both guys probably are right on the left, on the right, but what do you see from Frost & Sullivan?
Yeah, that's a very interesting view. So I was just about to comment on that. I think I agree partially on both the sides. I think the idea is not to really see when we talk about automation. You know, the general perception is that we are talking about high-end robots in place and everything. You know, there's absolutely no manual intervention at all, which will never be the case. I think manual intervention will always be there, no matter how much automation will you achieve. Okay, because at the back end, that automation as well has to be facilitated through manual intervention, I would say. Okay, so you are essentially picking up specific blocks, specific pieces through the entire chain and automating it as much as possible. So that is one of the, I would say, one of the key things that, at least that is how I see, things are.
Okay, thank you. Arthur, quick one.
Yes, so there was this conversation about how intelligent the software can be, and can it really be so fancy to predict what customers want? Well, I don't think it can today, but we need to have a vision. We need to understand that this is a process and it's happening, that carrier industry is changing. There will be more and more automation needed, need for more efficiency, need for more speed. I remember when we started delivering a CPQ configure price quote systems, 10 years ago, it was all about how to make it, how to model the products. So back to what Daniele was saying, but also how to make it easy to click it with the least number of clicks. Now we are talking about the APIs. So no clicks, but really APIs. But there is a future. Maybe the next step will be how do we make sure that our networks understand each other, and we don't need people defining what is needed, but really virtualized networks, automated networks can really provide us with even more automation between carriers.
Okay, thank you, Bertrand.
Yeah, I think just to add on that, I think, what our view is that, what can be automated will be automated. I mean, it doesn't mean that we won't need people to do tasks.
But I'm the old guy. I'm the old school. I still want to have this human interaction.
Yeah. No, we all like human interaction anyway. But what all the tasks that we can automate will be automated. We also believe that from our side in Blue Planet is that you also need to understand how you start your automation journey. And one of the first pillars is to look at your inventory databases. So that each telco has a lot of databases, etc. And they need to be sometimes what you store in the database is not what you actually have in the network. So one team basically uses one database, and another team is using Excel spreadsheet or whatever. So you have a lot of things like that need to be reconciled. But in a way, what can be automated will be automated, and it's not going to be one platform that is a super smart software that will resolve everything. I think there will be bits and pieces, and then we have to make sure that between vendors that these bits and pieces can talk to each other and work, so that it's seamless for our customers.
Standardization.
Exactly.
All right. I'm looking at Alessandro because he will be next up moderating here, and he's already looking like, are these guys gonna stop or what? So let's go to closing round. I mean, guys, we're kicking off today here at the telco infrastructure here in Roma, talking about the wholesale industry and the data hungry age we're actually in, and it's getting more and more hungry, everybody. So we in probably an hour or two from now.
We will be.
So as a closing round, and Surab, maybe I can start with you. What do you see? And buongiorno, Elisabetta. And guys, say buongiorno, Elisabetta, please. Grazie. And so Surab, maybe you can start off. What I mean, the glass ball doesn't exist, but I'm an old guy, and I like to believe sometimes in things, and especially in the future, having 3 girls. So Surab, what's your expectation for the future? What kind of takeaway can you give us?
Right, so I think the future is pretty bright. Okay, yes, there are a couple of elements in terms of things that we talked about, energy prices and all those things. Hopefully, that would change the course of action, I would say, in future. But yeah, from an overall wholesale data industry perspective, I know the future looks pretty promising, pretty bright. Clearly, if you look at if you try and put some of the numbers in perspective, the growth, the numbers, the percentages, the growth trajectory looks very, very fascinating. The consumption trends around data, as well as if you look at voice traffic as well, looks quite phenomenal. I mean, if I have to put it in perspective in terms of numbers, I would say we have done some initial estimates, some modeling around I would say that the wholesale voice traffic as well as data. The voice traffic alone is growing roughly around 10 to 12% year-on-year growth rate is what we are seeing. Wholesale voice traffic data is what we are seeing, growing around 10 to 12% every year-on-year. And data is actually almost 2.5, 3 times of that growth rate. So if you just compare that those figures itself, definitely the future looks very bright for the industry, I would say. Obviously, there are challenges in terms of how do you sell, the price erosion, all of those challenges will continue to prevail. But yeah, that's the nature of the market.
Well, we're in telco, so we love challenges and change, right?
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Surab. Arthur, tell us what's your glass ball prediction.
Nothing new, but what was already discussed. What I hear from our customers, really, they want us to help them to introduce more automation and enable them to collaborate better with other wholesale partners. That requires a couple of things. It requires more adoption of standardization. We still suffer with that. We are not where we should be. We are talking a lot about it, but we need to improve that. So hopefully future brings more standardization, and definitely the IT is going to play continue to play bigger and bigger role. We see a lot of network automation. We see a lot of business support systems automation, but in future, what I think we'll see more is really the combined automation between business support systems and network automation systems to talk together to provide more end-to-end automation for our clients.
Thank you, Arthur. So Bertrand, closing statement, what should we look out for?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Arthur just said. Yes, OSS and BSS, the operation support system and the business support systems will continue, I think, to evolve, to provide more automation, to facilitate how you guys, run your business. I think, it's an industry that in a way is in a great position because there's no shortage of demand for data. It's a question of how do you make sure that you monetize your position as best as possible, and hopefully we'll play a good role in supporting you going forward. So I think, I'm positive, in a way.
You better be. We're in Roma. What are we talking about? Fabrizio.
Well, I can just talk as a customer, of you guys. So thank you very much that you make the services faster, more reliable, and cheaper. Thank you.
Well, on cheaper, let's talk about.
Come on,
Magari.
We still need the human interaction for that.
Well, you could have stopped. We still need your money. Punto.
Exactly. That's it.
Stefano, closing statement, please.
Yeah, it's been a great session. I think that I couldn't agree more with Daniele. He's the best, but also with Fabrizio. He said interesting things. I think that raw materials will be really an issue if the entire world will not take seriously this issue and chipset issue. I think that the Chips Act, 50 billion that Biden is putting on the table, it's very important. I think that things will change. So I'm positive for the future. Now we are in a transition period, so we need to resist. And because the request of chipset will continue to grow. Everything will be a chipset in in 5 years. If you think about autonomous cars, but everything will be with a chipset. So we need can I say the fight between the two big guys is not helping. But I think that if we solve this issue, we have a lot of opportunities in front of us.
Well, you know what? When I'm at dinner, I still want to have the human touch. I still want Nico Romito, a 3-star Michelin chef, making my dinner and not talk about automation.
We are not gonna automating your glass of wine, Eric. That's for sure.
I'm so happy about
we
that.
Kept it out of the product catalog.
40. Daniele, famous last words for this session.
So, in few words, there is no way back. The cloud is there to stay. The edge is becoming even more far than the cloud. We are not going back. There is no way that we start to transport more voice because the OTT will shut down their voice apps. So we are going to face the challenges that I summarize in my keynote. It's a matter of sustainability. It's a matter of experience. It's a matter of trust. We need to leverage and we need to use the ever-evolving technology to find answers to that problem. There are problem statements that you cannot solve with technology. We said geopolitics plays a big role out of there. But again, we don't need to start taking the problems that are not pertaining to our scope. We are carriers. They are hardware and software vendors. They are software vendors. We are an industry together. We need to solve the problems of the industry, and we need to demand to the politicians to do their job. We need to demand the regulators to do their job. Acting as an industry, we have an opportunity to start monetizing. That is what we missed for the last 20 years. We have heavily invested, but the return on investment is extremely low. even compared to other industries that today are suffering our same problems in raw metals, in chipsets shortage, in energy consumption and stuff like that. But we are in an industry where the market demand is exploding, and we don't need to forget that. That's it.
Grazie.
Prego.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the end of this session. I hope you enjoyed it, you loved it, you took something out of it.